Hello and welcome to Guiding Gettysburg. Today we are touring the Evergreen Cemetery Gatehouse, and it is a beautiful building located right on Baltimore Street at the top of Cemetery Hill. It has a wonderful overlook of the whole town, and that's exactly why it was so important during the Battle of Gettysburg. At the time of the battle, the caretaker for the cemetery was a man named Peter Thorne. He and his wife Elizabeth and 3 sons came from Germany and lived here and took very good care of the cemetery during their stay there. The cemetery was a public cemetery, and it was a non-denominational cemetery, meaning that anyone was free to be buried there, and it's still that way today. There are no restrictions, and you don't have to be affiliated with any churches in town. Peter Thorne joined the 138th Pennsylvania Infantry, and he left to go fight in the war. This left Elizabeth by herself. She had the help of her father sometimes, but he was a senior and not able to do all that Peter was able to do. So Elizabeth took on a lot of the work herself. She had as many as 5 burials a month, which she dug the graves by hand. And from what I understand, the ground there is quite rocky. For some graves, they even had to blast over the years to get the rock out and use heavy equipment. So I can imagine what a time Elizabeth had digging these graves. But when the battle came, things got worse for Elizabeth and her family. The 11th Corps and General Howard came to the gatehouse, and they wanted food and they wanted information about the landscape of the town. Elizabeth took General Howard's officer on a tour of the north end of town. This was very risky for her. She was not a soldier, and she could be shot by accident. I'm sure the Confederates wouldn't do it on purpose, but it was war and anything goes. Elizabeth bravely took the officer out on the first day's battlefield to show him around town. When they returned back to the gatehouse, General Howard requested that Elizabeth feed him dinner. So not only did she have to be a soldier for the day, she had to be a wife and a cook as well. Some things never change. General Howard and some of his men stayed in the gatehouse, and he told Elizabeth that when he would notify her that the time had come, they had to leave. She and her family would evacuate and go somewhere safe, because he knew that the gatehouse would be right in the middle of things, and it was a dangerous place to be. The signal came from General Howard for Elizabeth and her family to leave, and the problem was they were right on Baltimore Pike, and there was nowhere to go. I mean, firing was all around them, and it just was not safe. And Elizabeth returned back to the gatehouse, only to find her home filled with soldiers who were wounded and blood everywhere, and all of her good linens and things were destroyed from the bleeding soldiers. She was very helpless at the time. There just was nowhere to go. So the Thorne family and the Massers moved in with the soldiers in the gatehouse. Elizabeth endured many hardships during and after the Battle of Gettysburg. Not only was she responsible for taking care of her family and the cemetery and the gatehouse and the burials, she was also 6 months pregnant. Can you imagine what this woman went through? Trying to bury soldiers in that rocky ground, I can't imagine. In the heat, with the smell of death all around. They couldn't even recruit men to come and work at the cemetery because they would come for one day and never come back again. The work was so grueling and the stench was so bad that the men couldn't take it. But here's this poor little woman, 6 months pregnant, and she had to endure all of it. She only had the help of her father, and her father was not that strong himself. She was pretty much on her own. I am so glad that they finally made a memorial to these women who were real heroes during the Battle of Gettysburg. But it took until 2002 for them to give these women recognition, which is totally ridiculous. I mean, when you think about how many statues of generals and monuments and things are out there, why couldn't they have done something for the women? They knew what the women did. I mean, their deeds were not secret. They helped everybody. So it upsets me a little bit to know that this memorial, as beautiful as it is not just for Elizabeth. It is for all the women who helped during the Battle of Gettysburg. I believe Elizabeth should have had her own monument, and she should have gotten a lot more credit than what she did. The sculpture of this monument was a man named Ron Tunnison, and he did a beautiful job on it, and it's right inside of the Evergreen Cemetery gatehouse. It's on the left when you go in the front of the gatehouse, and it sits back a little bit, and it's beautiful. But like I said, it's too bad that they couldn't have given Elizabeth her very own monument or statue, because she certainly deserved it. I really have a lot of respect for her, and she is one of my all-time heroes in the Battle of Gettysburg, because she gave it all. She really did. Something that really makes me angry, and you won't believe this, but after the battle, every year, General Howard would send Elizabeth Thorne a keg of beer as a token of appreciation. A keg of beer. Can you believe it? Probably Elizabeth didn't even drink beer. I don't think Victorian women did, drink at all, hardly. It just goes to show you how little they thought of the women of the time and the help that they received from these women. Life-giving care, and this is how they treated them. I would have sent the beer back and says, no thanks, buddy, I don't need your beer. But it's amazing, it really is, and I still shake my head over that one. But I don't want you to think I'm bitter. I am very grateful to Elizabeth and women like her who gave their all and get very little mention. And I hope maybe sometime in the future we can get some more individual memorials for these women, because they certainly deserved it. If you ever get a chance to visit the Evergreen Cemetery, please check out the statue up by the gatehouse, and you'll be reminded of the brave deeds of Elizabeth Thorne. Thank you for coming to my tour today. Please tell your friends about us, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.